All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's Jeff from RV Knowledge Group. So today we're just going to go on over locking hitch pins. I'm sure most people are probably familiar with them, been around for a long time. They have changed over the years. The old style, which were pretty much junk. Years ago, I had a travel trailer where I was able to pull one of these right off of the end of the pin because they used a system of ball bearings inside of here where a piece of metal would push the ball bearings, 3 ball bearings out. And that was what held the lock onto the pin, and the ball bearings just got chewed up and just completely failed. I actually reported that to the NTHSB, or the National Highway Transportation Safety Board. I guess I said that wrong. And never heard back, but then I did see a little while ago that there was something about locking pins in that. So apparently they fixed it. This one uses a different mechanism. By the way, most of these come with little rubber cover because you can tell in the end these get pretty filthy. Even in the cap, these get filthy if you're using them. They get rusty, especially if you're up in areas where they use road salt. You're going to need to lubricate the keyhole because it is going to be hard to tie that at where it's actually impossible to get the key in, so you have to lubricate it. They're going to come in different lengths as far as this way goes, and they're also going to come with sleeves that are generally 5/8 inch, and then if you take the sleeves off, it's a 1/2 inch diameter pin underneath. So and then the way these work, you just turn the key and you pop it out. There's a little rubber o-ring to keep anything from getting inside the lock hole there, and then obviously the sleeve comes off for smaller applications. Now, so the way these new ones work, or at least the way most of these new ones should work, I'm going to hopefully get a good picture in here. I think we're going to go this way. Is inside of this, there is a little piece of metal. Let's see if I can get it, a good picture of it. Yeah, there you see it. It's turning. There's a little piece of metal that you see pop up. All right, so when you turn the key, it releases that metal and allows this part of the pin right here to come out of there. When the key is out, that piece of metal locks tight. So when you put this pin in here, it locks against the pin, pushing that way, and you can't pull it out. Now, you can't tell because it's hard to tell inside of that hole, and it's hard to get a good shot, but I can actually see. I don't use these for any kind of weight purposes. I don't use them to secure my car behind my motorhome. I don't use them for anything that's going to require major weight, maybe 400 pounds at most, because I don't trust them. I can actually see inside of this one that even though it's a straight piece of metal that clips against this piece here, it does have a little tiny divot in the center of it where it's gotten worn over the years. I've had this probably about 3 years now. They're great for keeping people from, keep people honest, keeping people from taking your stuff, but I don't like them for any kind of purposes that involve force or torque or anything like that, any kind of weight being put against this and this. 2 big reasons. Number one, this is a 1/2 inch diameter normally. I put this on, it's 5/8 inch, but it's essentially a 1/2 inch diameter piece of metal, and it goes down to probably 1/4 inch diameter right here, which means you're getting the 1/2 inch when you have the thing pulling like this, but when you have any kind of force going sideways and pulling this, you're only using a 1/2 inch of metal now. I don't trust that very much. And then I've had this happen. I'm gonna go down here a little bit. Okay, so this is essentially what a hitch on your motorhome or your trailer, whatever, would look like. This is a 1/2 inch or 5/8 inch. So this is a standard locking pin. It's essentially the same thing as this, except it's one solid piece. And then it has a locking pin that goes in here. There is virtually no way for this to fail. You are probably never going to encounter a circumstance where you put this in and you put your locking pin in. You are never going to have a circumstance where this locking pin is able to pull out of there, or come off. I mean, the way they're designed, you can see it's not going to come off by itself unless it's loose. And by the way, mine are dirty. I've used these for towing 40,000, 50,000 miles now. So these are well used. This thing's been through hell. I will tell you though, for certain, that I have had this happen. And this is what happened with the old locking pin on my old trailer. Even though I have an anti-rattle hitch on my motorhome, there is movement as your tow bar is towed behind, whatever it is, your truck, your trailer, with an anti-rattle hitch. This piece is still going to move. Now, and I'm sure everybody's had this. You go out to your trailer and you check on things maybe the day before you leave a campground, and you find this thing is jammed up like that and you cannot move it. I mean, I've tried even just twisting them. They are on there so good. They're pulled so far this way and they're so tight that you can't move them. And you're like, man, that's a lot of force on there, like you'd think because it's got the anti-rattle hitch that it would be loose, but no, these pins get pulled super tight. There is a lot of force pushing against this locking pin, and this is the only thing keeping this from pulling out of your hitch, your receiver, whatever you want to call it. People have different things that they call these. If you use one of these, my big fear is with weight, that you now have all that weight that's being held by this pin on that little tiny piece of metal in there. And it's doing the same thing. It's putting all that force and it wants to pop. This piece wants to go this way and this piece wants to go that way. That's just how forces work. And you have that little tiny sliver of maybe, I don't know, 1/8 inch metal in there that's holding this on to the pin. And you have all this force, several thousand pounds, maybe 10, 20,000 pounds, that wants to push it off. And remember, you only have a 1/4 inch now. You don't have the 1/2 inch of metal. You only have a 1/4 inch of metal that's supporting this part at the end. And my fear is that one day that's just gonna boop, and this whole assembly is gonna come right off of my receiver, and I lose my car, or I lose whatever I have. So I really don't like these for weight distributing purposes or anything that has to do with a lot of forces. They're, like I said, they're great for keeping people honest, but you have to be very careful. The newer ones, you'll notice, I think Proven Lock makes a very good one, but it's about $200. It's pretty expensive. They not only have the locking pin on the outside, or this part, the locking part, they have a locking pin right here. So you get, and I'm sure that's been found over time that these do fail, which is why they've done that. So now you essentially have something, and I'll take this one off. So the new ones have something that looks like this, where you have the locking pin before the actual locking part, so that this locking pin takes all of that weight. And this is simply keeping somebody from stealing it. You could still pull this part out, and this would be locked on, and you could still, play with it and all, and eventually put this locking pin back in, but it prevents all of that torque and force from being applied to this little tiny piece of metal here that, like I said, to me, just I could conceivably see it popping off, and you lose everything on the back of your receiver. So anyway, that's a little bit of a warning and a little bit about locking pins. They're terrific. Buy a good one. And if you're going to get one that has the lock on the end like this, buy one of the new brands that has both the lock and the locking pin